Welcome, everyone. This is the Reiche Building Level Advisory Committee. It is October 22nd at 6:32 p.m. You're meeting via Zoom. And I will go ahead and take attendance throughout the meeting so I can make sure to capture people who join us later. Before we get into tonight's agenda, I wanted to make sure that folks had an opportunity to look at the minutes and to see if there are any changes or questions about the minutes from our last meeting. Okay, great. With that, I see Lisa with us tonight. So Lisa, am I handing it to you?
Do you want to?
Excellent.
Do you want to have approval of the minutes, Emily, or?
We haven't typically voted on them, have we?
I don't know.
I think we
did it at the Presumpscott meeting, so every group has its little norms.
All right, let's vote. It will feel official then. All right, all in favor of, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Someone?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Chris. All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes from our last meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Is anyone abstaining or voting against? I didn't necessarily get everyone's hand. Okay, so the minutes are unanimously approved. Excellent. All right, with that, we are official. The minutes are done, and Lisa, I'm handing it over to you.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Emily. Let me get my screen shared here. Okay, can everybody see the Portland Public School lead-in slide? October is perfect. All right, so welcome. Wonderful to see everyone. Hard to believe we're in October already. Tonight we're going to give an update on the Reiche Elementary School project. The agenda this evening will cover, we've already covered our welcome and our approval of minutes, and thank you, Emily, for that. And we will go over GC, which stands for General Contractor Prequalification Process. We will review the Green New Deal referendum question, also referred to as referendum C. And we will talk about the community forum that happened last night and some great questions that came out of that. And we'll go over the schedule, next steps, and adjourn for the evening. So general contractor pre-qualification process. So what the general contractor pre-qualification process is where we create a document that talks about what these projects are, the timeline of these projects, and we solicit qualifications from general contractors that are interested in bidding these projects. And what that allows us to do is really make sure that those folks that are bidding on these projects are qualified. So they either have past similar experience, they can be bonded for these projects, and they have the availability and the resources to execute these projects. So that helps us have peace of mind as to when we do receive the bids on bid opening day that the general contractors are qualified, and so the lowest bid should already be a qualified bid. We will check it to make sure that what they've bid is qualified, but we know the general contractor themselves are qualified to do the work. So we will advertise this month and review the qualifications next month. And once we review those qualifications, we'll notify the applicants or the general contractors. And then we will have our list of general contractors that will be that are interested in bidding. It doesn't always mean all of them will bid, but those are the ones that are interested and qualified. And then we'll advertise for bids in December, and then bids will open in the beginning of next year. once we open bids and we have determined the lowest bid, we will take it to the school board to accept the contractor bid. If the contractor's bid is over budget, it's still the lowest bid, but it's over budget, and we need to go through what's called a value engineering process, we will notify the contractor and we will let them know about this process and see if they're interested in engaging us in that process, engaging with us in that process. And it's a very collaborative process of identifying areas to save costs to get the project within budget. And we talked at the last meeting with Presumpscott about that communication of making sure that we have that list and we've communicated that act to the stakeholders. And then once we've have that list, we will then take it to the school board for approval of the contract, because that will impact the contract with the contractor. So to recap, lowest bid, if it's within budget, great, we'll approve the contract with the school board and move forward. If it's over budget, we'll look at a value engineering process to bring it within bid, and then execute a contract based on that to move into construction. Any questions on this process? Yes, Matt.
Are we going to be adding some deduct alternatives just so that we can be comparing apples to apples, some of the things that we might be willing to give up right off the bat? Just so then you're not picking at one contractor and then having to work only with them. It's more competitive.
It's an excellent question. Right now, I think we have add alternates. We can look at, are there items that are easy to identify as a deduct alternate to have that flexibility that you speak of in that process? Any other questions on the process? Okay, not seeing any. We'll review the Green New Deal referendum question. We'll provide an overview of what the referendum is, how it would impact the projects, and then sort of questions that have come up and what we're doing to explore this referendum question. And so the referendum question impacts our projects in really two areas: the construction of the project as well as the design of the project. So right now, this is, for anybody that isn't aware, this is referendum question C. It is to be in the upcoming election here. And if it is approved, the impact that it will have in construction is there's a requirement for contractors to hire a certain percentage of workforce as apprentices. I believe the threshold is about 10%. And as we're learning more and investigating this further, we understand that if that number of apprentices aren't available, there is some acceptance of maybe not meeting that threshold, but that is what has been established. Wage rates to comply with state and local fair wage rates. We're not really concerned about this. We've determined this from the beginning of these projects that we would comply with that. Requirement that employees undergo OSHA training. So this is in regards to the contractors, and that's a pretty typical requirement that is out there. In regards to project design, so the areas that this impacts is around energy codes, as well as the certification process and different thresholds of exceeding ASHRAE standards. And the other one is the Better Roofs program. And so the requirements for projects to exceed the energy performance required by the Maine Uniform Building and Energy Code. So they have a certain performance that's required. This would adopt a higher threshold that we would have to meet. It also would impact the lead requirements that we're already executing, and it just provides less flexibility. It tells us which rating system we have to comply with, as well as which approach. And what is that? So what does that mean to this project? If it is executed, it really causes us to redirect some of our design efforts. And so what we have been focused on is really the educational spaces, at the same time making sure that we have a LEED building, but these requirements would step that up to where it would have us redirect that design effort to more of the building envelope and the mechanical systems in lieu of spending the money where we spent, reduce the spending on educational spaces and additions. So it would really impact what these projects end up looking like and providing. Requirement for better roofs. This program looks to set aside 15% of the roof to be solar ready or vegetative roof. And so, and in addition, that's much easier than an existing building. We can design for that. We can make sure that the structure can support the weight of the solar panels or the vegetated roof. There's another requirement about making sure that the electrical infrastructure is there and dedicated for those systems. On existing roofs or projects that don't have a large enough addition to meet that 15%, so in the case of Reiche, there isn't a very big addition, so we'd have to look at the existing roof and whether the existing roof can support the weight of these different measures, whether it be solar panels or vegetated roof. And a lot of times, won't say always, but a lot of times in buildings, it requires or triggers a structural upgrade in order to support that. What we're finding out more and more about the detail of this referendum and how it the requirements apply. And right now our understanding is it's really about making sure we have a design that can be able to support this, and not necessarily that this is provided as part of the project, but there is a design so that it can be implemented. We're not clear on the timing of when this will take effect. So election day is early November. Our understanding right now is that this could begin 30 days from certification of vote. And so that's kind of the window to which we have before it may apply to our projects. The referendum language does not say if there is forgiveness for projects already in design. And so the language indicates the Director of Planning for the city can forgive the requirements on grounds of infeasibility from a technical perspective, but does not specify forgiveness for projects already in design. So currently we're exploring some next steps. I know that Portland Public Schools is engaging with legal counsel on opinions of the applicability and options available to the district as it relates to these projects. And we're also looking at is there an option for expedited submission for the building permit, so that if we're under review for our building permit before this goes into effect, does that mean it still applies to these projects? So that's what we're exploring at this time. And so that last part that we're looking at is what would it look like to try and get us into substantive or to have our building permit under thorough review, to where maybe this will not apply to our projects given the impact it could have on the overall approach to each of these schools. And so right now, you can see all three schools are up there, and I apologize, you can see Reiche isn't spelled correctly, so forgive us on that. The Presumpscot, Longfellow, and Reiche all have different permitting requirements based on their location and what their scope of work is. Presumpscot has a level 3, Longfellow a level 2, and Reiche has a staff review, which is usually a little bit less a time to get through. And so right now what we're looking at is Presumpscot has their submission in, the full application, as well as the conditional use. And essentially they've received our drawings, and we're waiting for them to tell us, you have everything in, we're going to give you a date to be on for a workshop or hearing with the planning board. Longfellow has all of their information in. We're just waiting to see if they need any additional drawings. and then they can put us on the agenda. And Reiche, we're talking with them about how long they think this staff review may take before essentially they will be able to approve us. We don't need to go for a workshop or a hearing. And so the diamonds you see here are the planning board meetings that are on the schedule already. And so essentially that means that this is the sweet spot where we'd have to have everything pretty much approved by the planning board. And the reason the planning board is important for us to get to the building permit is we have to have planning board approval first before we can actually apply for our building permit. So this is the sweet spot in order to get everything approved by planning board to then immediately turn around and apply for our building permit, get everything in, and hopefully be far enough along in their review for them to feel that we are not required to comply with the requirements of referendum question C. That's going to be challenging, and we're going to do everything we can to continue an active dialogue with the planning board to understand how quickly we can get through that process. But it will be challenging because essentially everything would need to be done so that we could be under that building permit application review. As you can see, that the ordinance would go into effect right here in December. And so you can see, any slide in that puts us past that time period where we might be outside of that 30-day window. And so you can see the impact this question will have on our projects if it is approved. And just want to communicate that we're doing everything we can to try to be prepared or proactive so that it doesn't impact the scope that has already been discussed and allocated at these different schools. I'll pause there to see if there's any questions or if anybody wants to add anything to this conversation.
I don't see hands, but if you have a question, go ahead. Oh, Renee.
Just, and maybe you don't have this, Lisa, but do you have an estimate of how much money would be diverted in order for us to be able to make these requirements if in fact this referendum passed?
Yeah, that's a very fair question, and we don't at this time. That's what we're digging into, is to really understand what is the impact, what would be the order of magnitude of any of these modifications that would need to be done, and then therefore what would be the impact to the scope at each school. So as we get in further into that and kind of have all these things running parallel, we'll keep folks up to speed as to what we find out.
All right, any other questions? And I can't see everyone's hand because of the slide presentation. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask it. Okay.
So I will move on to the community forum update. So we had a wonderful forum last night. The agenda that we went through with the community was welcome and introductions. And then we reflected on the wonderful design statement that they all helped us create and the inventory of facility needs at Reiche that really gave us sort of the lens to move forward with the scope there. And then the presentation of floor plans and renderings and reviewed the improvements to the school in response to COVID-19. We provided a lead update and project timeline and questions and answers. So we'll give an abbreviated version of what was reviewed, but we went over the design statement that the community helped us all create and kind of gave us the thesis for the building, if you will, and that was to create an inclusive environment that celebrates diversity, fosters collaboration, embraces nature, and integrates into the urban fabric. And then we reviewed the high priority facility needs for Reiche. Number one being enclosed classrooms. So enclosing the classrooms providing a secure, accessible entrance, moving the music to the school side of the building, and providing the necessary code and accessibility upgrades. And in regards to improvements to the school in response to COVID, we reviewed both the district-wide initiatives as well as the improvements that are included in these projects. And so those district-wide initiatives that are currently underway are unit ventilator air exchange units and, UV air exchange units in nurse areas, including separation rooms, repairs to windows for ease of operation, installation of hand sanitizing stations, and cleaning and servicing of ventilation systems and installation of ionizers. And then those specific to this project, reconfiguring of nurse areas to include separation isolation areas, and including touchless fixtures and new/renovated restrooms. And so a lot of great questions came out of the forum last night, and we'll go over what those questions were and what our responses were to the community. Excuse me. The first question we received was, what materials are used at the front entry, and could we have wood tops on the benches? So we thought the wood tops on the benches were a great idea, and will be something that we'll be exploring going forward. And the materials on the front entry are a high-performance concrete panel to really start to relate back to some of the materials that are on the existing building, and providing some similarity, but a little bit more current approach to it. Are there any changes to the Clark Street entry of the building? And so none are proposed at this time. Really, the improvements on the Brackett Street are due to creating that secure entrance on that side of the building. Will there be changes to parking and traffic flow? And there are not any that are anticipated. There's actually pretty limited site work that is occurring at Reiche. Will the new landscaping accommodate edible garden curriculum? Is there a landscape budget, and can the Reiche Green Team be involved in landscaping plans? And the answer to the last one is absolutely. I know that we worked very closely with Lysa's Green Team, and the Reiche Green Team has already reached out, and so we are engaging with that group. We kind of got reintroduced to them last night so that we can get them involved in any of the landscaping. And some of that is occurring out front at the entry area. Will we lose trees at Brackett Street entrance? And so we're very careful to impact trees as little as possible. Where the entrance addition is occurring, it does impact a couple trees. But the majority of the trees along Brackett Street we are preserving. There's a couple that are just right in the way of the addition. And any of those that are close, we work to protect those trees so that they don't get impacted or impacted as little as possible. Are there windows in the second-story connector corridor? And so right now, I think it's shown, but that is an alternate at this point. But right now, they're articulated as a solid wall, but the intent is that there will be transparency or glazing on both sides of that connector. Can the landing between the school / community sides handle a green or a roof garden? And so, in short, it really can't. We analyze that roof to look at what it can support, and without doing some structural upgrades, currently that roof cannot support a roof garden. Will the community room / book nook remain? And yes, that is the intention. That space will remain as is and will continue to be used as the community room. What happens to the existing entrance / slope? So everyone's probably familiar with sort of the slope that goes down to the entrance right now, and there's a vestibule to get into the brickwork area. So essentially the vestibule, this exterior set of doors, will be removed. So it will just be a single set of doors for exiting purposes because your new entrance will have that secure entrance up front. That area will be converted into a landscape area and there will also be a pathway to the new stair that is over there as well. Are there renovations to the playground? And so currently there are not any planned renovations as part of the scope to the playground area. Will there be a working kitchen was one of the questions, and we're looking at the potential of expanding the existing kitchen to provide a little bit more room in that area. Access to reports and archives can be found on the project website. So there was a question about kind of where we can find things. Folks that I think you are all familiar, there's a great website that has all of the documents and presentations. And then there was a question about consider the use of Maine wood products. And one of the items with this school is we need to use non-combustible materials. So as much as we like to use wood products, we're looking at alternative products that comply with low carbon or embodied carbon, but right now Maine wood products is not something that we are considering inside the building. And the schedule and next steps, before I move on to that, any questions on the forum? Okay, not seeing anything. We'll go on to schedule and next steps. So the project schedule, we are in the production of the construction documents, working towards getting all projects ready for bid. And we just completed the 3rd public forum. And so that's essentially where we're at and working through the planning board process, as we mentioned in the previous slide. The next DABC meeting will be November 19th. And right now we don't have a date for the BLAC meetings due to the holiday. And so we'll have to get back to folks on what those dates will be and the order of the BLAC meetings for November. So I think that's the end of our presentation.
Excellent. What questions do folks have? We're almost there. This is such exciting such an exciting stage of the project.
Absolutely.
All right, I do not see any questions.
Question.
Oh yes, Lauren.
Can we look at the front entrance design? Can we talk about that for a few minutes?
Absolutely. I don't know if it's in this presentation. I can pull it up.
Yeah, because I was on the community forum last night, and we looked at the rendering that you guys did, and you mentioned having it like integrated in the community and the existing building, and I just feel like we could do such like a more fun approach for a children's school, or like just something besides this steel structure that feels very cold and it doesn't feel very welcoming. And I think that whole front area could be more exciting for both the community and especially the kids.
So I think this, Lauren, is the rendering you're referring to.
It is, yeah. Like I'm not, like that just doesn't feel like a warm, inviting place to gather. Like I love the idea of extending the school out and really capturing people at the entrance. But I just feel like the use of materials on the addition as well as the louvered structure could just be more appealing to the community and the kids. So like even if it's some like really fun, fantastical structure, like something really unique if you're going to go that route, or something that has more of an integration into the community.
No, I appreciate that feedback. Yeah, we can definitely look at whether it's materiality or maybe some approach to the structure itself, and see if there's some modifications that we can make to to take that into consideration.
Yeah, I was thinking, so I'm an architect, and I think there are a few architects on this panel. I know everybody's super busy, but we could all have, like, submit a sketch or submit something to you guys, and we can have a discussion about this, because this is a really important piece. You know, this is very visual for a lot of people, and the kids that go to Reiche are proud to go to Reiche, and we're proud of their school. And I think that I think we can just make it a more exciting piece.
Absolutely, we can definitely take options into consideration.
But the first part of it, you know, with this new referendum and the planning board, I don't want to be holding anything up, but obviously a piece like this could be altered after the permit.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lauren. Any other feedback or questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone. We can, if there's nothing else, we can end our meeting early, get back a half an hour of your night. I know our teacher leaders need it, so especially, and the superintendent. Sorry, superintendent. But thank you so much, Emily and Lisa. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, and for all you're doing to move these projects forward and move the Reiche project forward, in particular for all of us. We will circle back with a date for our November meeting when it's set. And if there's any questions in the meantime, you can always reach out to me, and I will help answer your questions or help connect you to the Harriman team. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night. And thanks again.
Thank you all. Take care.